And we are live with another edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside once again by my co-host, Andrew Johnson, as we are now through the 12th week of the NFL season, and boy, what a Week 12 we had this past weekend in the NFL. A lot of upsets. That is probably not, it's probably doing a big understatement of how many upsets there were this past week in the NFL. A huge game for one player in particular on Sunday Night Football, a big hardball bowl last night on Monday Night Football, even news regarding one of my teams in terms of what they did for a certain player that is no longer on the team, which we'll get to a little bit later on in the show. So a lot to break down, and by far, Johnson, our biggest mushing hour we've had all season. 10 games that we're going to be breaking down today because of the holiday schedule this week.
Oh, yay. We get to add more games to my record. I'm so excited about
You're
that.
doing better. You're doing good in the NFL.
Yeah,
It's
I know. Listen,
college football is where it's been, that's not,
well, if you
that's
faded
different.
me since if you've been fading me like I've been
If you
saying,
faded,
you're up a
you know what?
lot of money right now.
Spoiler alert for last week. If you fully faded Johnson, you were you were doing pretty good last week.
And you parlayed that, like $100 would be like $100,000 right now.
Yeah, yeah. I'll save the spoiler for our next show, for when we do our college football recap. But to start
But
off our week, we're gonna yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
yeah, the NFL's kind of lost its punch over the last couple weeks. Am I crazy to say that?
Uh, Depends on what you mean by that.
I don't know. I don't think the quality of games haven't been really that good. There's been a lot of blowouts. There's the
I will.
occasional good game.
I'll say the Commanders Cowboys game was a fun end. Like that was just a weird ending. Like that game
Yeah, I mean, but the
turned
first
out
three
good.
quarters was just
Oh yeah,
awful.
no. The first three quarters were absolutely bad. The fourth quarter just made up for the entirety of that game. The way the Bears game ended was kind of fun because without spoiling it, I mean they were them able to force overtime was good. But I get what you're saying. I mean the blowout on Sunday Night Football was bad. There was a lot more blowouts
The
throughout the
Lions
entirety
game
of the
the other
week.
week.
Yeah, the Lions put it up 50 plus on the Jaguars. That was kind of expected, I think, at that point in the season. But yeah, I mean, it goes to show you that like there's certain tiers in the NFL right now that you're going, you're looking at. You have your 1A teams, your 1B, 1C, whatever you want to say as that. And we thought after going into the week, there was teams like maybe let's start off with our first game, the Steelers, where we thought 8-2 going into that game. Everyone thought it'd be a trap game. I think both of us kind of agreed that it looked like a trap game going into Cleveland. And we thought that you know what, this is a different Steelers team compared to old teams where they would lose this game probably, where they can get over that hump, they can finally be a Cleveland team on the road, and then go to 9-2 and really establish themselves as one of the best teams in the AFC. Now, while albeit they might still be a good enough playoff team this season potentially, this is a bad showing against the Cleveland Browns they had this past Thursday night against Cleveland. A game in which early on, before the weather conditions played a factor, a bunch of missed fourth down conversions really cost the Steelers points in that game. We saw the defense for the Steelers really struggling earlier on, couldn't really cover guys like Jerry Jeudy and stuff. And then again, like towards the end of the game is where the Steelers finally got their offense going. They struggled throughout the first three quarters to even get a touchdown. Finally able to do something in the fourth quarter. But by the time they got, back into position to win the game, their defense struggled towards the end. There was a big controversial play in terms of, it was, I believe it was 3rd and 1. The Browns got incompletion. It forced fourth down. There was a penalty on the Browns to where it was a 5-yard penalty, would have made it 3rd and 6, or the Steelers declined it's 4th and 1. The Steelers at that point, with the snow being heavily involved also, they probably expected Cleveland to go for it because even though the Browns were in field goal range and could have taken the lead at that point, they felt as if they were going to go for it because the snow was that big of a factor. So because of that reasoning, the Steelers gave the Browns an extra 3rd down. They pushed it back 5 yards. Cleveland would convert the 3rd down. A few plays later, they get a rushing touchdown from Nick Chubb. And they're able to pull off this stunning upset over the Pittsburgh Steelers by the final of 24-19. Crazy to think, Johnson, the Browns are 3-8 on the season. 2 of their wins have come against both Pittsburgh and Baltimore after this past Thursday.
Yeah, crazy enough that they're playing themselves out of the number one overall pick, which I couldn't be happier.
Me too.
And let's face it, Jameis, he had a honeymoon effect for about like 2 games. He had a honeymoon effect, but
He did all right in this
overall,
game.
he's been okay. Like, listen, he's serviceable. He's been a hell of a lot better than Deshaun Watson. Uh, it's kind of crazy. We've been 5 years removed from Jameis as a full time starter. Um, it's just this is really the first fair shot he's had in a while. I mean, he had a run in New Orleans a couple of years ago, but he wasn't supposed to be the starter that year.
Yeah.
And it's just Jameis did what Jameis did, and against a very good Steelers defense, he got the win.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely made a couple like almost errant throws. Like he threw an interception in this game. Probably should have been intercepted another or two more times in this one, but the Steelers were to drop those passes. He's pretty much playing himself for a job position at this point. Going to next season. I don't know if he's going to be a starting
I mean,
quarterback per se
I
next
think he could
year.
be a starter next
He
year.
could maybe be a starter, maybe even for this Cleveland Browns team, because as you mentioned, them winning this game now effectively puts them out of the top three at the current moment in the NFL draft order. So if they were to get one of those quarterbacks in the NFL draft, they would either have to hope one falls to them or they would have to maybe be traded up, depending on who they would want. Because, that's a huge issue for them right now. They need a quarterback. That's definitely without going saying because of the whole Deshaun Watson debacle. But you know what? For a season that's been horrific for them all year round, it was good for them to at least get this one because there's been no light at the end of the tunnel for this Browns team throughout the entirety of the year. They're at least able to say that they beat the Steelers and now even beat the Ravens as well earlier in the season. And I guess that's something that you could smile about going into your next couple games.
Yeah, you can smile about that, but you know who's not smiling right now?
Go ahead, tell me. I think
The
it could be
Washington
a couple.
Commanders.
Yeah, I was gonna say it could be a couple teams. There's a lot of first place, second
I
place
mean,
teams in
Jerry
the
Jones
NFL.
wasn't smiling at the end of this game either, but that's maybe for
Well,
different reasons.
that's for a different story. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we kind of summed up earlier where we said, the first three quarters of this game, there wasn't really much specialty like to this game. It was pretty much your typical, back and forth. Defenses are playing good, which is surprising because these two, the Cowboys defense especially have been horrific all season mostly, and the Commanders defense has been playing better as of late. But then we probably had the wackiest fourth quarter I think I've maybe ever seen. Um, Washington gets into within 3 points with 3 minutes left. I think this is the best spot to do it at Johnson. So Washington makes it a 3 point game. They were trailing at one point, down 11 early in the fourth quarter with 5 minutes left. The ensuing kickoff, they kick it off to Cavante Turpin. He does fumble the ball as he receives it. He picks it back up, does one spin move. That's all it takes for him to go 99 yards for a touchdown. Puts the Cowboys up 10. Commanders go down the field. They get a field goal. They make it a touchdown game once again. They get a stop on defense. They're able to get the football back. So they're down 27-20. There is 20 seconds left in the game, or about just around that mark. And you're thinking, well, they're going to have to pull off another Hail Mary like they did earlier this season to get any hope. And they did it pretty much. Terry McLaurin catches an 86-yard touchdown pass on a blown coverage play from Dallas, which I'm not sure how exactly they let Terry McLaurin get that wide open. That was indeed the case. McLaurin scores, makes it a 1 point game, but tragedy strikes for the Commanders. They missed the point after. It was their second missed extra point in this game. So they already had two missed PATs. They had a kickoff return let happen, and now they're losing by 1 point because of that missed PAT. So they have to go for the onside kick. The Cowboys return the onside kick for a touchdown. So they gave the Commanders a chance to tie it before the game ends. They were not able to do so, and the Cowboys win a very wacky game, 34-26. 41 points Johnson scored in that fourth quarter alone between the two teams. And as you mentioned, Dallas gets the win. Might be at a very tough cost. I mean, they weren't going for a specific quarterback in this draft, but it does maybe potentially ruin any chances of them getting a guy like maybe even per se a Travis Hunter type of player in the top 5 picks.
Yeah, this is another stupid game where another franchise got themselves out of a pick here. There was no reason for Dallas to win this game. If I was Jerry Jones, maybe that's why he wasn't smiling at the end of his game, because I would be smiling too. I'd look to the left of me, and the guy said, "Oh, if someone asks, oh, why aren't you smiling?" I'd say, "Oh, just like the meme. There's nothing worth smiling about right now." You
Yeah.
said it best. They're giving up their chance of getting Travis Hunter now because uh, now you have to rely on the Jacksonville Jaguars stringing together 2 additional wins to even have a prayer of a chance of getting Travis Hunter.
And
And it's not like Travis Hunter isn't like this sought out talent because he can play both sides of the ball. So, you know what? If you're a team that needs everything, you could just put him in training camp and determine, oh, you know what? He's better at receiver or he's better at corner. And that's where you play him. Even
yeah,
throughout the
yeah.
year, you can even say, like, okay, 4 or 5 games in, you can experiment your rookie year against different teams, better defenses, weaker offenses. You can see how he does, but
There was a
this is his
reason
game
why
you
you
don't
were
want to win.
Yeah, there was a reason why you were pissed when the Patriots beat teams like the Bears and the Jets, recently, because you want a player like that. I mean, he's just a generational type talent, being able to play two-way position, he at least said he wants to play both ways when he gets to the
And it's a great attitude to
NFL
have.
level. Yeah, but I think the biggest story also from this game is now for Washington, because this is a bit concerning. This is now their third straight loss, and you know
They're almost out of the playoffs.
yeah, because it looked like they maybe had a firm positioning in getting a playoff spot. Now with three straight losses, they're now only a half game up on that final wild card spot. So they have to be very careful these next couple of weeks if they want to get into the postseason with first year quarterback Jane Daniels.
Yeah, especially with Tampa Bay and Arizona right there. Uh, I mean, Atlanta is still there at 6-5, but like you said, if Tampa Bay, they could be interchangeable, and the Seahawks right there in 6-5 are interchangeable. And you really can't count out the 49ers or the Rams at this point. Really, the NFC West and the NFC South, uh, any of those teams are interchangeable right now. Really outside the Saints and the Panthers, obviously. But there's 4 or 5 teams that can easily, either swap places
You
or they
know
can
what?
overtake, or they can overtake Washington.
You know what? I want to say that about the Saints. For some crazy reason, I don't know why, they're still not technically out of the playoffs because they could win
Well,
the NFC South right now.
yeah, you know why? Because their schedule is Rams, Giants, Commanders, Packers, Raiders, Buccaneers. They could win 5 out of 6 of those games.
They very well could. They very well could.
That's
I
the
mean, and
craziest part.
that division is not one of the stronger ones in the
And
NFL.
and that
That's
9
to say
wins,
the
yeah, that
least.
probably wins the division.
Yeah, it probably does. It probably does. Go 9-8. That's all that matters. Speaking of last year division winners, let's go into a team that's right now in a division lead, but they also had a pretty bad showing on Sunday. Johnson, how about the Houston Texans? They fall to the Tennessee Titans by the final of 32-27. Texans now they are 7-5 on the season. The good thing for them is that their division has been playing poorly this year. The Colts pretty much are the only realistic threat for them to lose this division title. But remember, they also beat the Colts already this season. So that might be a moot point. But irregardless, this is a bad showing for the Texans because Will Levis played phenomenal in this game, and he's been getting clowned out all season. He played pretty good. Other than the one pick six he threw, he was pretty much, efficient the entirety of this game. And CJ Stroud kind of struggled. He threw 2 interceptions. Even Dan Orlovsky did at the end of the game, stepping out of bounds to lead to a safety. Not a really easy position because you were pretty much pinned at your own 1 yard line. And the Texans now they're kind of struggling as of late as well. Now they lose this game. They had a bad loss against the Lions in which they were up 18 points, and now they go into next week 7-5.
Yeah, no, 7-5 is putting it lightly, right? Like they're kind of lucky to be 7-5.
They are very lucky to be 7-5, and they're very lucky just to be in the the AFC South, I should say. Very, very lucky because they could be
Yeah,
missing the playoffs entirely right now.
I mean, listen, there's some pretty weak divisions here. I would say the AFC is definitely on the stronger side this year compared to the NFC. The NFC has
Yeah,
a lot of bad
both
teams.
both South divisions are terrible. That
Yes,
that that's
yeah. We've had a shadow
and
of a
we
doubt.
knew
That's true.
and we knew that going into the season that was probably going to be the case. The Texans were the lone team we expected to be good enough. They've been fine they're just a weird team right now because they get to those points where they play fine. Everything looks good. Like case in point last week, the week before, they looked pretty strong. Albeit they were playing a Cowboys team that was banged up, but their defense played great. Joe Mixon looked like a beast. And then they go into this game. Mixon can't run the ball. They had to throw the ball a lot more than they would have probably hoped for. And their defense struggled entirely against a Titans team that's been having not a great statistical year in terms of offensive numbers. But give your cap off to Tennessee. They're another one of those teams, unfortunately, like we mentioned earlier, that if you wanted a Travis Hunter, you probably potentially took yourself out of that case. But give your caps off to the Titans crew for getting the victory, their third win of the season now.
And this is another team that if you're, I'm not gonna say this again. I'm gonna have this insert the same rant I just had 5 minutes ago.
How about
because
another
it's a team that potentially had the number one pick 4 weeks ago, and now
Yeah,
they'll be lucky to pick 6 or 7.
they're right now number 6 of the season ended today. So that that is indeed the case. So there's still a lot of time if they want to get the number 1 pick, and who knows? Because if they want a guy like Travis Hunter, maybe. But there have also been rumors of Levis. Levis played one of his best games of the season this game. But if he were to kind of be bad the next couple of games, does that mean maybe they're in the quarterback market? I don't know. How about the Bears, Johnson? I mean, how much more heartbreaking can he get for them?
It's pretty
The next
funny at
couple
this point,
weeks.
to be honest.
I mean, for a team to lose 5 in a row, first off, and 3 of their losses have come via Hail Mary, a blocked field goal, and then in this game against the Vikings, where they're down 10 with under a minute left, they get a touchdown to make it a 3-point game, and they actually recovered an onside kick to get the ball right back, and they were able to go down the field and kick the game-tying field goal. They actually got the ball to start overtime, but they were not able to do anything with it. They go 3 and out. The Vikings, they had to drive a very long way down the field, and they converted a bunch of third down conversions on this game-winning drive. They get a 30-27 win over Chicago. Vikings now 9-2, staying just right behind Detroit for the NFC North Division lead. The Bears at this point, I mean, it looks all but done for their any playoff hopes potentially for them. As I mentioned, now 5 straight losses as they now drop to 4-7.
All right, so is this where I can officially
I
say
mean,
that Jaden Daniels is better than Caleb Williams now?
yeah, but can you blame Caleb for this game? He looked pretty good in this game.
Who'd they play again?
Vikings.
And what have the Vikings been doing lately?
Come on, you're not gonna give him any credit for the Vikings.
No,
You
not
said
really. I mean,
you
the
said
Vikings were the number one defense in the league.
you
They
said,
were.
and I quote, "If he does this against good defenses, then you'll start, giving him credit." I'm not saying you have to fully give him credit for this season. I'm saying for this game, he played pretty good. He was phenomenal.
Hey, listen.
There was one mistake he made, and I was really critical of it. There was a play in overtime where it was second down, and he held the ball too long, didn't throw it away, and he got sacked. And it went to like 3rd and like 30, pretty much. So that's a play that's definitely critical of. I'll give you that.
I
But
mean, listen.
he
When
was
he
really good.
when you don't have a touchdown for about a whole calendar month, like, listen, you're bound to get some, right?
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, listen, they changed offensive coordinators. It's done. He's been looking a lot better. That's at least a positive, I guess.
Listen, all I'm gonna say is when Mac Jones looked like this, he got fucking canned. That's all I'm gonna say.
That's true. That's true. I'll give you that. I'm just trying to show Caleb some love. It's been a rough season for Chicago. They finally looked good offensively in this game, but they just found a different way to lose, which has been the story of
I
their
mean,
entire
it could be
season.
better. It could be worse, right? I mean, imagine if the Bears had to play the Lions, the 49ers, the Vikings again, and then the Lions again on like a 4-week span. I mean, that would be really rough, right? Right?
No comment. Yeah, that's a rough stretch. That's saying that's really an
And then
understatement.
you get blessed by playing Seattle, and then you have to go to Green Bay in the beginning of January. That's really fun. We're gonna see what he's made of. This is the stretch where we're really gonna see what he's made of.
Right. This is a statement stretch. He's got
Because he had some layup games in the previous 4, and he fell flat on his face.
That's fair. Well, who's not falling flat on his face, Johnson? Saquon Barkley.
Bo Nix?
Bo Nix too. Bo Nix is. Hey, listen, Bo Nix sneakily might win Rookie of the Year. I mentioned it a couple weeks ago. He might be the favorite now. I gotta look up the odds for the Rookie of the Year. He really
Still
might be the
Jane
favorite.
Daniels.
Yeah, it probably is still Daniels, but Bo Nix is probably lowering
He's
those
closing
odds.
in. He's
Yeah, he's
closing in
closing
on it.
in.
Jane Daniels is minus 175 and Bo Nix is plus 120. Like
Yeah.
between plus 120 and 160, depending on where you go. But
Well,
Jane
I'll tell
Daniels is
you
between
this.
minus 150 and minus 200. So,
Speaking of someone trying to enter the conversation, how about Saquon might be entering the conversation? Maybe I would say maybe I don't know if he's 1A for offensive player of the year, but he very much well could be. People might even some people want to put him in the MVP conversation. And after a game that he had this past Sunday night, I don't really see how I could blame you. 255 rushing yards, 47 yards receiving, accounting for I gotta do my math correctly. Over 300 scrimmage yards in this game. I mean, they didn't have to use any other playmakers like Brown. They didn't even have Devonta Smith in this game. But Brown had a good game as well, had 109 yards in the touchdown. But the story of this game was Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's just been sensational for Philadelphia this entirety of the season. They go down to 9-2 with the victory over the Rams, 37-20, the final. Rams still technically not out just yet. They're still only a game back in the NFC West. So that's at least a good thing for this Rams team. But they're gonna have some they're gonna have to start winning some crucial games down the stretch these next couple weeks.
all right. So I'm ready to talk about it. You ready to talk about Saquon's MVP?
I don't see how you can after the way he just played this
All
week.
right. So here's the deal. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson are the favorites, right? But sneakily, right, like in the rearview mirror coming up on the highway and the passing lane, it's Saquon Barkley.
Would you say he's number 3 in voting
I'd say he's number 3 in voting right now. If the season ended, and yes, so like CMC when he was third a couple of years, was it last year or 2 years ago? I think it
last
was
year?
last year. Yeah, Dak was number 2, which is funny, and Lamar finished number 1. And you got to realize that Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts were kind of the same quarterback, right? Brock Purdy last year and Jalen Hurts this year, kind of the same quarterback. Yes, no.
Yeah, yeah.
So this is what I will say. Even though Lamar's been fantastic and Josh Allen's been fantastic, uh, no really eye popping quarterback play. And this is what I'm going to bring it all the way back to. That weird MVP year, 2012, when Adrian Peterson beat out Peyton Manning for MVP. Peyton Manning threw for 4,600 yards, 37 touchdowns, 11 ints, and I think the Broncos were like 13-3 that year.
Hmm.
You could very well see Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson get something similar to that. But what was AP stat line? AP that year had
Did he run for
about
2,000 yards?
2,100. He had 2,100 yards in 16
Yeah.
games. And I think like total scrimmage yards was 2,300. Right.
What's
So
crazier about that season was I didn't mean to cut you off, but what's crazy about the season is I think that was the first year he came back from that ACL injury he had the year prior.
it is.
Yeah, like that's where it's even more wilder about that season from Adrian Peterson. But continue.
So he had 2,300 scrimmage yards, 2,100 being receiving. Saquon's at 1,650 right now.
Mm.
So you know what
Yeah,
that
I mean,
means? Right now, Saquon is on pace. If it continues, right, he's on pace to finish. And again, this is just like using the average 2,200 scrimmage yards. So he's 75 shy of AP. Granted, it's an extra game. It's an extra game.
even
But
if you didn't have the extra game, he'd still be crushing it.
yeah, he'd still be crushing without the extra game. But this is trying to compare him to Adrian Peterson.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he had 12 rushing touchdowns, and I think he had. Let me take a look over here. He had 1 receiving touchdown. So he had 13 touchdowns, right, with 2,300 yards. Saquon's already there with touchdowns.
What's the
He, he's he's got 12. He's got 12 touchdowns on the year right now. He's
what was
he
the
may
amount of
end up with
yards?
he may
Go
end
go
up
ahead.
with Saquon may end up with 2,200 scrimmage yards and 17 or 18 touchdowns by the end of the year. And if that's the case, you have to give him MVP
What's the
because it's not a
rushing
strong
record
enough.
for a season?
I am not sure.
2105.
So
Barkley,
AP was just shy of it.
he might beat that, man.
Listen. He's not on pace to beat it right now.
He
He's
might
on
not be.
pace.
He would have to do what he did last Sunday night again.
He's on pace to kind of match AP's total scrimmage yards
Yeah.
because he has a bunch more receiving yards, and he's on pace to break the touchdown record that he had or when he got his MVP season. So the numbers support the Saquon MVP case, and he's much better than Jalen Hurts because here's a trivia question for you: who was the quarterback of that Vikings team when Adrian Peterson won MVP?
Oh, 2012. Let me think. It's either Christian Ponder or could McNabb have been there at that point?
You already got it. It's Christian
It
Ponder.
was Christian Ponder. Okay,
So, and like Christian Ponder, he wasn't bad in 2012. Like he was okay.
he's all right. Yeah, he's serviceable.
Listen, he was serviceable, and that's what kind of Jalen Hurts is right now. He's kind of serviceable this year. He's not really lighting the world on fire. He's way better than Christian Ponder. Don't get me wrong, but it's not like
Yeah,
he's lighting the world on fire right now. So you could make the argument that definitely Saquon deserves it over Jalen Hurts. Just like people made that argument for AP back in the day. So the quarterback argument's there. There's no really
like
other strong quarterback performances that warrant the
like
MVP.
I'll tell you this. They had DeAndre Swift last year running back, and he's a good running back. There's nothing wrong with him. But I feel as if the Eagles would not be 9-2 without Saquon. There's no way they're not 9-2 without him. Like if
And
they had
similar
DeAndre
to
Swift,
AP, I'm glad you said that because similar, not
mhm.
to cut you off, but similar
Yeah,
to
go ahead.
Adrian Peterson, the Vikings are not there without AP either. You could
Yeah,
change
what was
out
the
Christian
record that
Ponder.
year?
I think they had 12 wins. I think they
I
went
was gonna say
12
they
and
probably made the
4.
they probably made the playoffs that season. They went 10-6. Yes,
10 and 6. I said 12 and 2. 12 and 4.
it's kind of wild. 10-6 with Christian Ponder at quarterback. It's pretty good. That's pretty good. So yeah, as much as it pains to say as a Giants fan, I mean that's just how it's been going. Saquon's just been unbelievable, and just continues to shine as a Philadelphia Eagle. So we'll see what he does in the next game. They have a big game upcoming this week.
But
We'll talk about that.
if they follow the exact path that the 2012 Vikings have, they're going to lose in the wild card against Green Bay. So that'd be funny.
That could I don't know if they're going to lose in the wild card because it looks like they have the NFC East division on a lock at this point, the way that Washington's played as of late. But maybe they go one and done. Maybe that's just me hoping for it at this point because you know how salty I can get about the Eagles, and yeah, that's how I'm going to end my story on that. Final game that we had was on Monday Night Football. It was the Harbaugh Bowl between Jim and John as the Ravens took on the Chargers last night in SoFi Stadium, and a very good early showing for the Chargers in this game. It looked like Johnson for a little bit. Maybe they were going to win this game. Their defense was playing good. Lamar Jackson and company couldn't get anything going to start the first quarter. They were shut out. Then the first couple minutes of the second quarter, they were struggling. They finally got some offensive numbers towards the end of the first half, going into halftime with the lead. And then they finally turned back the clock as to what they've been doing all season. Derrick Henry running great. Lamar making some big throws when needed be. They got a big rushing touchdown from Justice Hill as well in the fourth quarter as they're able to hold off the Chargers by the final of 30-23. They go to 8-4. The Chargers drop to 7-4. And considering that the Steelers also lost on Thursday night, it's a big, pretty much you can count it as 2 wins this week for Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore is not dead for that division yet. And I feel bad for Justin Herbert because Quentin Johnston either looks like he's the best player on the field or the worst player in the field.
Yeah.
And he certainly was the worst player in the field tonight, unfortunately. And this is coming from a guy that I'm really pulling for him because I think he has the athletic ability to be a great receiver, but he just needs to he's got to put it together, man. Like this is probably his last. He's got 8 games to turn this around, and if he can muster up maybe 500-600 yards in the next 8 games, maybe they start him again next season. But I know he's much improved over last year, but he keeps on dropping passes, man.
Yeah.
It's getting pretty bad.
Some people are saying that he should just let the ball hit him in the chest, and that's the only way he can catch it at this point, which
It's
I
not a
don't
bad
really
idea.
disagree. I really don't disagree the way it's been 5 targets for him in that game and not a single reception to
Yeah,
bring
about
forth.
50% on targets on the year, so that's pretty pitiful.
Yeah. Well, I will say, the Chargers are at least making a case to be a better, a team that's not fake, I would say, because, they beat the Bengals in a game that everyone expected them maybe to lose. They were able to play the Ravens pretty close this game. Now they have another upcoming big game this upcoming weekend. So we'll see what they do on Sunday in their matchup with Atlanta if they try to get back on track and keep one of those last wild card spots in the AFC as a whole. Final note, Johnson, before we go into our mushing hour, I got to talk about it because it was involving one of my teams. Daniel Jones is no longer with the New York Giants. We mentioned last week, I believe we mentioned it last week, or maybe we didn't actually. We didn't because it was this was the news after. So if you've been living under a rock, and I would assume everyone's heard the news by now, Daniel Jones got benched after the bye week. It was kind of expected. Everyone knew that was going to happen. Um, they then put him as a practice squad safety for one of the
A scout
practices.
team.
Scout team. Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of the word for it. So, yeah, the writing was pretty much on the wall after that came out. He released a statement after that happened. About thanking the Giants for his time in the organization. So you knew that the release was going to happen at some point, and then he gets cut, I believe, on that Friday, 2 days before they played on Sunday. So he's now currently a free agent at the moment. We'll see where he is to go. If he does sign with a team, he wants to supposedly he wants to sign with a contender coming up. So we'll see if maybe a contending team that needs a backup signs him. But yeah, the 6-year experiment is officially over for Daniel Jones and the Giants.
So how's it feel?
I want to say relief, but this team still sucks, so I don't have any relief. No relief whatsoever. Talk to me in a couple months when the NFL drafts
Tommy
is
DeVito is
over.
going to be your quarterback for the next decade, according to many people on WFAN.
Yeah, they are on absolute drugs if they think that's the case.
Listen, what if he is?
No. I watched that
See,
game
here's
on
the
Sunday.
you're not even willing to give him a full 16 games, or you gave
I'm willing
Daniel
to give.
Jones
I'm
multiple
willing.
seasons and multiple contracts.
Let's make something clear. It's not. I'm not willing to give them. I didn't want to give. I wasn't willing to give Daniel Jones any time. Remember this. I told you on draft night that I was going to be livid if they drafted Daniel Jones. And that's exactly what they did. So they didn't even care. And listen, I give him props. Like, he handled it like a professional. But there comes a time where you're, if you're playing poorly, like, it's gonna reflect on you and the rest of your team. And he wasn't playing good. It's different if, like, oh, you know what, he's playing good and we gotta bench him because we don't want to pay him money. Like, he wasn't playing good, and there's a whole, contract dispute as well. Like, they had to avoid it at the end of the day, and that's exactly what they did with this move. Now he's no longer on the team. At least for him, maybe he gets a second chance somewhere. He's not going to be a starter by far anytime soon. But, if someone goes down with an injury, he might have a chance to play in the playoffs again this season. So who knows?
If I'm him, I would go to the Dolphins.
They probably could use a backup, yeah.
He would be the best. Listen, Daniel Jones would probably be a top 3 backup in the league right now, if you count Jameis Winston as a backup.
I mean, I guess going into the season, yeah, but at the current moment, he's technically the starter. But I see what you're saying.
I mean, yeah. I'm saying going into the season, he'd be a top pick.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. So, yeah. I want to say I'm happy that it happened, but why? There's no enjoyment because it's just a constant reminder that they paid this guy over Saquon Barkley, and Saquon's crushing it for the Eagles right now.
But here's the thing: he wouldn't be doing that for the Giants right now.
No, but I mean, listen,
all these cast-offs. Listen, Josh
Yeah.
Jacobs, Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's not doing this for Tennessee. Josh Jacobs not doing that for the Raiders. Saquon Barkley's not doing that for the Giants. So I think the key is you need a good quarterback with an elite running back. That's the key. You don't need a mid with a bad quarterback and elite running back. You need at least a decent quarterback for your running back to be as good.
Saquon would be doing fine with this team, but he would not be doing the historic numbers he's currently doing. Like that's where it is. And who knows, he might get hurt again because that's just, how it's been going for the Giants, and especially in his career with the Giants. But yeah, I mean, I don't mind Tyrone Tracy. I like him as a running back. I don't care if he has a fumbling issue now. That's easily fixable. That was an issue for Daniel Jones for a while.
It's a throwaway season.
Right. Yeah, it's a throw. At the end of the day, once they dropped to like 2-4, 2-5, you knew then you're like, okay, yeah, it's not going to happen. Like, the playoff run that 2022 was a miracle in itself. Last year was a pretty bad year. This year's even gone worse. I think right now, if the season ended today, they would be the number one pick in the draft just because of strength of schedule. So I think that's the case. I don't know if they have the tiebreaker over Jacksonville or Vegas. I'm not sure where
I
it
think
goes.
Jacksonville is the number one overall pick right
Yeah,
now.
it says on Tankathon that they have the number one pick, but I saw like an NFL insider said that these were the odds going into the week. So I don't know exactly
Yeah, I
which
mean,
is.
obviously we have to wait till the end of the season too. But
Yeah, there's still a long way to go, but regardless, the Giants are going to be picking the top three. Like they're not. There's a reality they probably
I'll
don't win
jinx
another
it. You
game
better
this
knock
season.
on wood right now.
I mean, listen, they very much well could win this week. That's where I'm very worried. I am very
Don't
worried they might win
don't
this
look at
week.
my picks. Don't look at my
Yeah,
picks.
I can already tell you probably pick the Giants to win this week or at least cover.
No comment.
I because you've done it before. You've done it before, and I know why. Because you also want to move up in the draft order, so you want teams like the Giants, Raiders, or Jaguars to win. That's why.
I am not motivated by that, but yes.
Well, I guarantee you probably picked the Raiders to maybe cover on Black Friday for this week.
No comment.
All right. So with that being said, let's go into those picks. We might as well go through them. And as I mentioned, it's a long slate this week. 10 games, 3 on Thursday, 1 on Friday. Our usual Sunday slate and Monday Night Football as well. So a lot to break down on the show today. Let's go into the first game, Johnson. The first game on Thanksgiving Day. Chicago Bears going into Detroit to take on the Detroit Lions. Lions at home, a 10-point favorite. The over-under set at 48.5 for this game.
Lions minus 10. It's going to be an easy one. I think Caleb Williams is going to be outmatched here, especially going into Detroit on Thanksgiving. Tradition in that city, even though it hasn't been a great one, pretty much for the entirety of this franchise's existence. But it's going to be a very rowdy franchise because this is the best record. This is the best team I think Detroit has ever had. So
Oh, by
this is
far,
going to be
yeah.
this is going to be a lot. This is going to be a very rowdy Thanksgiving.
Like I hate the line because I feel like the Bears maybe could keep this close, but I think you're at
We're
the
not
point where
going
like,
to.
but I think the problem is like you're at the point where like, can you really bet against Detroit right now? Like you have there's no other better judgment for you to pick someone to cover against this Lions team. They're just so good on both sides of the ball. They have two great running backs, a stud wide receiver, a great tight end, a really solid quarterback in Jared Goff, and their defense has been playing phenomenal most season. Uh, I'm gonna go with Lions minus 10 as well. It just comes down to the point where like someone proved to me otherwise that someone can at least compete with this Lions team at the end of the day. So I got Detroit to cover as well. What's the second game we got on Thanksgiving, Johnson?
Oh, how what a absolute joy this is. A Thanksgiving tradition like no other. You know, cooking turkey, sleeping on the couch, and watching the New York Football Giants take on the Dallas Cowboys. We have the New York Football Giants coming live from Jerry World this Thanksgiving afternoon, and it's going to be Cowboys minus 3.5 of every home team, and the over/under is a astounding 37.5. So some high-powered offense here. Cooper Rush versus Danny
So
DeVito, maybe.
close.
Danny DeVito, Tommy DeVito. Uh,
Might as well be Danny DeVito.
might as well beat him. Might as well beat Danny DeVito at
Might
quarterback
as well
because
be
we don't
starting.
know who's starting yet. It could be
I
it
think
could
it's
be
I think it's gonna be
Tim
Drew
Boyle.
Lock. They
Could be
said
Drew Lock. We don't know
they
yet.
said that I see now you made me say Danny DeVito. That Tommy DeVito is less than 100% right now, so he wouldn't be 100% going into this game.
Well, I mean,
I
he's
doubt he
filming It's
starts.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia, so
Yeah,
that would make sense.
that is true, but yes, Tommy right now doesn't. I don't expect him to play on Thursday. I expect Drew Lock to be the starter for this game.
I'm expecting Tommy to have some cutlets the night before on
I'm
Thanksgiving Eve,
ex- I'm expecting to shut my TV off by the first
and I'm
quarter.
expecting Tommy DeVito, not Danny, to lead them to greatness and cover this game. Giants plus 3.5.
If Drew Lock plays, is it the same result? You think for you?
Does he have cutlets before a game?
Maybe Tommy gives it to him.
Then sure,
Sure. I mean, he puts on for his city.
he does. He
He
does.
does put on for his city. Uh, I really don't even want to pick this game. Like, it's just so bad. Like I this is a lose lose for me, Johnson, at this point because I want my team. Like, I'm at the point where like you have to lose just to get a good player at this point. I think for you, you shouldn't have to worry about us taking Travis Hunter. We're taking a quarterback in the draft.
Yeah, I know, I know. I have to worry about
You
Jacksonville.
have
They're
to.
not going to win any games, so
Well, Jacksonville's not good. Oh, yes, you're right. You're right. Jacksonville would take Travis Hunter. You're absolutely right about that.
yeah.
I think
Especially
us and
hometown kid kind of. I know he's from
yeah,
Georgia, but
I would think
played at
us in
Jacksonville State.
Vegas are not going to take Travis number one or whatever because we need a quarterback that desperately. Like Travis Hunter, I would love on the Giants, but quarterback is such a bad problem right now. And if that report of you said with Tommy DeVito, you want to give him a full stretch next season, then maybe that's where you take Travis Hunter. But they're going after quarterback. They're probably looking at your door more than Travis Hunter. They need it. They have to because Shane and Dable are pretty much fighting for their job security right now at this point, and they need something next season to keep their jobs alive. So that's where I would say you don't have to worry about us taking your guy. Now, going back to this game, I mean, it's going to be Drew Lock / DeVito versus Cooper Rush. There's no positives of this game. This game's just going to suck. Um, I'll go with Cowboys minus 3.5. I don't. I don't know. This game just sucks. This sucked before the injury to Dak happened, and it got even worse after the Dak injury happened. So, yeah, get ready for a snooze fest Thursday afternoon. I was going to leave it at that. There is one more game on Thanksgiving, at least. This might be a decent game between these two teams as the Miami Dolphins are going into Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Packers are a 3.5-point favorite, over under set at 46.5. Can Tua overcome the cold weather, Johnson?
Absolutely not, because Packers minus 3.5. They're taking this game easily.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Packers minus 3.5 as well. Tua has a chance to maybe, prove those doubters wrong with those comments, but until proven otherwise, Green Bay just looks like a way better team. The Dolphins have been playing better of late, but you also got to look at who they played also. That might be the reason why they look a little bit more decent the last 3 weeks. So I'm going to go Green Bay as well, minus 3.5. How about the game we have on Friday?
We have Raiders at Chiefs on Black Friday. Chiefs are a 12.5-point favorite, and the over-under slate at 42.5. I'm just going to take the under this game because the Chiefs are going to win this game something like 21 to 4.
4, that's a random number.
They can get two safeties.
I mean, the Chiefs almost lost to Carolina. They almost lost to the Panthers.
Yeah, but the Panthers and the Raiders are not the same team.
The Panthers kicked, they beat them big earlier this season as well, too. Yeah, it's been a rough year for Antonio Pierce. It feels like they have 2 wins this season, and they have never recovered ever since they beat the Chiefs last Christmas. Like, it feels like ever since that happened, they've just been horrific. And I don't think they're going to have Gardner Minshew. They're not. He's hurt. So it's probably Desmond Ritter starting this game. I'll go with Chiefs minus 12.5. If Desmond Ritter is starting this game, the Chiefs might win this game by 40 points. It's going to be bad. Like we thought last season's Black Friday game was bad. This one might overtake it. Give me Chiefs minus 12.5. I'm gonna trust the cover. They should win this game easily on Friday. Going into Sunday, we have the Los Angeles Chargers going into Atlanta to take on the Atlanta Falcons. Chargers are on the road, but are a 2.5-point favorite. The over-under set at 47.5 for this game.
Yeah, Chargers minus 2.5. I think that's an easy one.
I'm going to go with the Chargers as well. I have not been over the Falcons' loss to the Saints, and that was like a couple weeks ago, and then they got beat up by Denver. They got to prove to me that they're going to be worthy of a playoff spot, and the Chargers, at least to me, have proven that they should be worthy of a playoff spot. So give me Los Angeles as well. So sorry, Chargers fans, you might be in trouble this week with us both taking them. What's our next game? As that's not the first of many.
Big game and for the AFC over here.
No, the NFC.
And the NFC. Yeah, both divisions. We have the Arizona Cardinals going on the road, take on the Vikings. Vikings are at home. They are a 3.5-point favorite, over underslated at 45.5. Give me Vikings minus 3.5 here. I think that's an easy one.
I'm gonna go with Vikings minus 2.5, because we saw what happened against the Bears. That tough cover at the end. It looked like they were going to cover.
That was a very bad beat. That was the only thing I got wrong too.
That's what I'm saying. Like that. Like I could see the Cardinals maybe like screwing around and maybe keeping this game close. And I think they could keep it close. But I'm at the point where I gotta stop. Like I keep thinking the Vikings are fake. They're 9-2. Like they're not a fake team. They are a good team. I don't care what. Like I know Sam Darnold's playing at quarterback. Maybe that's the reason why I think it's happening. Darnold's playing good enough. Like that, I gotta just stop thinking the Vikings are not good enough to be a contender in the NFC. They're playing great football. I gotta give them credit. I'm gonna go with the -2.5 just to avoid any tomfoolery with a last-second field goal. So give me Minnesota in that game. Going into a big pivotal matchup in the AFC North, pretty much Johnson. Maybe the last hope for the Cincinnati Bengals this season. They lose this game, they're pretty much all but done this season. They are at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers are an underdog in this game as the Bengals are a 3-point favorite. Over under set at 46.5.
Hmm. Give me Steelers plus 3 here. This is going to be a very tough game. And I think the Steelers have a pretty good chance to win it outright. If you give me the points, I'm going to take them.
I didn't like me picking the Bears last week. I had no good reason to take that pick. I feel the same way about this game as well. I'm gonna go with the Bengals -3. I don't feel good about it. I haven't felt good about picking the Bengals all season. I've been pretty much doing it all season. I don't really have a clear cut case to say, yeah, this is the reason why I'm taking them. I could say like, yeah, you know what? They need this game. Their playoff hopes are pretty much on the line in this game. You look at the AFC standings. If the season ended today, the last wild card is still the Denver Broncos, and they are currently 2.5 games back of Denver for that last spot. So they really need this game, and they're playing the Broncos, I believe, coming up as well. I had to check the schedule. I think they are playing each other soon, but I'm gonna go with the Bengals -3. I don't have a good reasoning for it. I'm just gonna take them to cover this game.
All right, the next game we have the Eagles going on the road to M&T Bank Stadium, take on the Ravens. The Ravens are the home favorite. And I'm sorry, they are the home team, and they are the favorite by 3 points. It's Ravens -3, and the over/under slated at 50.5. Give me Ravens -3 here. Eagles have had kind of a couple of closer wins. Maybe you've gotten some lucky breaks. I don't think the balls of fate are going to bounce in their direction every single way. So give me Ravens -3 here. They could get a little momentum going in towards the end of the season.
I won't take any team to win this game. The pick I love for this game, Johnson's the over. I'm at the point where like any game that Baltimore's in, you probably have to take the over in points, unless you're playing the Steelers, of course. Um, both these are two of the more high prolific offenses in the entire game. If not for the Sunday night game that we have, this is very well a primetime game that could be happening. This is going to be a phenomenal matchup between these two teams. Two great running quarterbacks, two phenomenal star running backs as well, and a decent enough, receiving core for both teams. Obviously, the Eagles' triumphs over Baltimore's, but it's going to come down to which one of these defenses, in my opinion. It might come down to maybe one or two stops for one of these two defenses to win the game. I expect a lot of points. I'm going to go with the over for Philadelphia and Baltimore on Sunday. Next game we have is our primetime game on Sunday night, and it is a pretty good one as well. Have to see depending on what happens with the 49ers in terms of quarterback play, as the 49ers are going into Orchard Park to take on the Buffalo Bills. Bills are a 7-point favorite at home, over under set at 44.5. The big question is going to be, Johnson, is Brock Purdy going to play? I think indications are saying he is, but we haven't seen any confirmation of that just yet.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the over here. I'm not gonna pick between these two teams on who to cover, but I think a lot of points will be scored. So give me the over.
I don't hate that pick. I'm going to ride with you. I'm going to go with the over as well. I don't hate that. I'm a little concerned for the Niners at this point because you lose this, you're falling to 5-7, and it comes down to you have to win your division games. Which I mean, they're already in a bad spot because they lost to all three of their teams in the division. So if the season ended today, I mean, they'd be in last place. Um, Buffalo is also fighting for home field advantage at this point in the season. Like they're a game back of Kansas City. They already beat the Chiefs, so they need the Chiefs to lose another game, and they need to keep on pace with them. I think they do that in this game. I do think they'll win the game, but I won't take the points for the game, I will just go with the over as well on Sunday Night Football. And then, Johnson, what do we have to end our week on Monday night?
In our final, not our final primetime game, but I guess
That is our final primetime game.
it's our final primetime game. I was gonna say of the month, but this is technically
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be in this is gonna be in December. So the first primetime game, I guess, the first Monday night game of the month is gonna be Browns at Broncos. Broncos are at home; they are a 5-point favorite, and the over/under slated at 41.5. I'm also gonna take the over here because I think this game could end by death by field goal. I think Jameis Winston can throw a pick six and a touchdown, and it wouldn't surprise me if the Broncos have 5 or 6 field goals. So, with all that being said, there's like 30 points right there. So, just need 11 or 12 more. So, give me the over.
The question is going to be: Are the Browns going to play spoiler to another potential AFC playoff team? They did it against Pittsburgh last week. Can they do it against the Broncos, who are the last team in right now in the AFC standings? If you're a team on the bubble, you're hoping that the Browns pull off this upset in this game. It's tough because I think these are two good. Like, these defenses on paper are also pretty good. I could see this maybe being a high scoring affair as well. Like, you can make all the logistics for each of the cases. I'm just gonna go with Denver -3. I'll go with a little bit of an alternate spread. I think the Broncos are just playing great right now. Bo Nix is trying to really prove his case to be the offensive rookie of the year, and I think if he continues to play at the pace he's been playing the last few weeks, I think that is very much well going to be the case for him. He's really proven the doubters wrong. I mean, he's played sensational football. He's got Denver in a playoff position right now. As much as I want to see Jameis Winston continue this, great trend that they've been going on the last couple of weeks, I do think that this is a really, really tough matchup against another strong defense like the Broncos. They did just beat the Steelers on Thursday, but I think this is another tough matchup, especially considering you're going into Denver and the Mile High. I think I got the Broncos to cover -3.
I think that's going to wrap us up here, Nick. Any final thoughts to end the show? The only thing I have to say is just have a happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Yeah, for those that are listening to this episode, as you mentioned, very happy Thanksgiving to all of you and your friends and family. And unfortunately, I'm sorry you have to watch the Giants Cowboys on Thursday. Put on some Christmas music or something. Don't watch that game.
I heard Jingle Boom by the Costco guys is a
Honestly,
classic hit.
I would rather listen to that on repeat than watch that game on Thursday.
I mean, that's just a great song. Shout out AJ Big Justice, like they need any more publicity, but
I'm trying to think of something that's like horrific that I would rather do than watch that game. I might watch St. John's highlights from 2015, 2016.
Ron Wawika, Duran Johnson, Felix
exactly.
Balamu,
I think I
Amar
would rather watch
Begovic, Christian Jones.
I think I would rather watch
Federico Mussini. I know the entire roster. This is bad.
I know. I would rather watch a 9-win St. John's team highlight video than probably watch this game on Thursday.
Hey, 7-win.
Oh, they won 7, so I gave them 2 extra wins.
Yeah. Well, one was they technically have 8 wins, but one was a Division 2 win. So
so you don't count it. Okay.
Come on, listen. You got Malik Ellison. You got Tyreek. I think Tariq Owens. No, Tariq Owens wasn't. He was there, but I don't think he played.
He didn't play. They probably redshirted him.
What's Malik Ellison up to now? I don't think he made it to the NBA, right?
Oh God, no. God, no.
I don't think so.
The end of the show has gone off the rails. Let's just say, like I said, I would rather do anything.
I hope Federico's doing well. I was a big fan of him.
Like I said, I just hope that.
All right, let's end the show before we keep on talking about irrelevant college basketball from 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that's 10 years ago.
About 10 years ago.
Yep. All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Week 12 is in the books. We now head into week number 13. Big 10-game slate for us in week 13, minus the one game on Thanksgiving that I keep mentioning about, which I'm not going to keep mentioning about. So I'll leave it at that. 3 games on Thanksgiving, 1 on Black Friday, a bunch on Sunday, including the Ravens and Eagles, the Sunday night game between the Bills and the 49ers, and then Monday night, Cleveland and Denver, rounding out our week number 13 slate. So we'll see how it all will unfold going into next week. This has been Nicholas Pavone, joined alongside by my co-host Andrew Johnson for the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your week and enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday.